lat training, the latissimus dorsi.
Okay,
It's a massive muscle.
certainly. Spans a
Is there any
large area of anatomy.
is there any anatomical hit me with an anatomical fact that I don't know of the lat?
Well, you probably know most of it, but I think that most people forget that, or not forget, but don't necessarily maybe consider the large connection of the latissimus to the lower back and how
Ooh,
like how that can be specifically uh, part of any training program.
okay, you're right. Okay, so let's do this. Let's do this. So you want me, so I'll put the lat on there. Let's get the lat on there. So we're talking about this guy right here. And you're talking about, so it's funny when I'm using this in clinical space to show people,
Mhm.
they don't
Mhm.
know that the lat comes to the front. Everyone, that shocks everybody.
Yeah, I could see that as well. I could see that as well. But I think that once you point that out and like traditionally most people would think about training the lat in any sort of pull down or pull up variety. So where
Yeah.
the arm is actually moving, once you point that out, you're like, oh, okay, well that makes sense that I'm moving the arm.
Hmm.
What a lot of people do forget about then is like maintaining like an arm position, but actually like moving through the lower back to help
Mm.
potentially
Mm.
add some training effects to the latissimus, right? Or like extension based stuff with the arms up here. So the lat is technically lengthened at the arm, but then you have to
Hmm.
train it with extension based stuff at the back.
Hmm. Okay, so let's do this. Let's do this. Before you get into the specifics on that, what I want to do is I'm just going to put the lat on there. Uh, okay, I'm just going to put the lat on there. I'm going to share this guy. And so just so that people can kind of see, I know probably most people know where this is. But there's the lat. I got a question.
Yeah.
What is that little, see how the tissue does this like little, like it's like the pec. Like what, like what is
Yeah.
that
So
called?
so
You know what I'm saying?
anatomically, if you think about, well,
This guy
let's
right
say
here.
tendinous areas or tendons of certain muscles or uh, continuums of muscle tend to wind on themselves as a way to create better force absorption or force dissipation. It's like a better load bearing strategy. So
Hmm.
specifically, there's been some literature on like the pectoralis major tendon doing that winding effect, the Achilles tendon doing that winding effect, the hamstring tendon, proximal hamstring tendon doing that winding effect. Now you see it in the latissimus, that winding effect. And again, I think it's just an adaptation that has been created whereby areas that undergo repetitive motion or areas that undergo high stress have that as a built-in mechanism to counter that stress,
Hmm.
right?
That makes
In the case of the Achilles, for example, that's why, you know, in some cases, Achilles ruptures can be so devastating because you kind of lose that on that winding effect.
oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't what is that winding effect called? Are you just saying
I
it's
don't know
winding or is
exactly. I
that
don't know exactly what it's called, but what happens is like the fibers, like you have the linear sort of fibers of the corresponding muscle tissue, which would all be, intermingled with connective tissue. And then what happens as you start to get into the tendon, instead of that connective tissue just kind of carrying on linearly, it starts to create this winding effect where like it kind of intermeshes or interlaces a little bit more before it then carries on into inserting into the next bone per se.
Man, that's interesting. That's interesting. I'd like
So
to.
if you
I
think
like.
about it, it's great for load bearing purposes, but also again like all muscular tissue is not purely linear per se, right? So that winding effect is also an adaptive mechanism to counteract like where the force is going, because force is not uniform through a muscle. So wherever that force is going, that tendon now has the ability to counter that force, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
force is not purely linear.
Mm-hmm. For sure. It's
So it's
a
some
vector
sort, I don't know.
quantity.
Yeah, so I don't know exactly what it's called, that effect. If it does have a name, I'm not sure what it is, but we like the anatomical literature has described that in multiple tendons.
So let me ask you one more question on this. So, because you worked in the cadaver lab, right?
I did cadaver dissection in chiro school, and then when I was a resident, I taught in the cadaver lab for a semester. Yeah.